It's Christine, and coming up next on the show, Ohio takes on the big banks. The state says it no longer requires the services of Bank of New York Mellon and State Street following a lawsuit accusing them of mismanaging money from its public pension funds. We're going to talk to the man who issued the banks their walking papers right after the break. Stay with us. Good morning and welcome back. Ohio has cut ties with Bank of New York Mellon and State Street, who had managed roughly $41 billion in international assets from the four state pension funds. Now, last week, Ohio filed a lawsuit against BNY Mellon, accusing the bank of overcharging the funds in currency transactions. This follows legal action by several other states and the Justice Department as well. Joining us now to talk more about it is Josh Mandel. He's Ohio State Treasurer. Josh, great to have you with us on the program this morning. Thank you so much for your time. Let's go ahead and start with this lawsuit that's been filed. Obviously you are trying to protect the people of Ohio who've invested all of this money in pensions, and we've seen a lot of fraud really destroying the system here in the United States. So this is a really big issue. Tell me how you first sort of learned of this and what led you to file the lawsuit.
Sure. Well, it actually started when I was running for state treasurer. This was a couple years ago. We saw some unethical activities in the treasurer's office, our predecessor in there, in respect to State Street Bank. And we asked a lot of questions of the bank, did not receive any answers, and then asked questions of the then treasurer, did not receive any answers, and it just didn't pass the smell test. And so when I became treasurer, we did a top-bottom review of the office. We looked in every nook and cranny of the office of not only where we could save taxpayer money, but also where we could institute a heightened level of security on behalf of the taxpayers and retirees of the state. And one of those places we found was the international custody of our state pension funds. These two banks, State Street and BNY Mellon, held approximately $41 billion of custody of custodial agreements with the state pension funds, with two of the pension funds. That's a lot of money. And it's actually three of the pension funds, three of the four funds that do international work. And so we rang the bell, we sounded the alarm, we sent a letter to Mike DeWine, who's our Attorney General, and his office did a good, thorough investigation, looked into the matter, and about a week ago they filed suit, and we applaud them for going about it in a methodical way, a gradual way, and a thorough manner. And my main responsibility in the Treasurer's office is to protect taxpayers' dollars, to be a watchdog of taxpayers' dollars and the retirees, the cops and firefighters and teachers of our state, and we're doing just that. And listen, in our office, when we invest money, when we invest and we hold it, it's a safety, liquidity, yield, and there's a big drop after safety. It's safety and security first.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we really commend you for that, Josh. At the same time, when we talk about the lawsuit, $16 million in funds that you're trying to recoup is also not a small amount of money. How could this have gone unnoticed? I mean, obviously you noticed it, but how could it have gone unnoticed for so long?
It's a good question. I mean, we asked that question of the previous treasurer, and in fairness, we were not the first ones to ring this bell or sound this alarm. There were other attorneys general around the country and other state pension funds who were asking this question. And so as we followed it and saw it develop throughout the country, we took a closer and closer look and came to the place where we just felt compelled to ask our Attorney General here in the state of Ohio to look into it. And so, listen, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I did 2 tours in Iraq, and I'm not the kind of guy that's going to be pushed around. I have no problem taking on big banks. I have no problem taking on a powerful interest to do what's right for the taxpayers here in the state of Ohio.
Okay, and obviously very commendable, but I just want to bring up the fact that, Josh, you are also running for U.S. Senate as well. So are these policies and some of these feelings that you have, what you've done in Ohio, are these things that you're going to take with you to Washington, if possible?
That's a great question. If I was a U.S. Senator when the Wall Street bank bailout occurred, I would have voted against it. I fundamentally disagree with it. Here in Ohio in 2008 and 2009, if small business owners were struggling, a guy at the end of the street who owns a pizza shop or a lady who owns a hardware store, or an entrepreneur with a new technology company, if they were struggling, there was no one from the federal government that came and bailed them out. And I thought it was fundamentally wrong to do that for a small group of banks in Wall Street and other places throughout the country. I don't think the federal government should be picking winners and losers. And you better believe when I go to Washington, I'm going to take on leaders in both the Republican side and the Democratic side if they're trying to use our tax money that's earned here in the state of Ohio to pick winners and losers on Wall Street or in Washington, D.C.
All right, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate and challenge you on that for a minute, Josh. When we talk about the bailouts that we saw in Washington, you know, we do talk about the policy of too big to fail. How would you try to scale back some of these banks so, A, they wouldn't be too big to fail? And also, how would you respond to a lot of the folks who have said, you know, the bailouts really worked, the money's been repaid, and it was really positive for the system. We were in crisis mode, and that's what you had to do.
Listen, I believe in the free enterprise system. I believe the free enterprise system works. When you look back through American history, it works. And would there have been some tough times for some of these institutions if the federal government didn't bail them out? Yes. And would have some of those institutions gone by the wayside or maybe been acquired by other institutions? Yes. But that's the free enterprise system. We have this great tradition in America of trusting the free enterprise system, trusting the private sector economy much more than we trust the government. I'm not one who believes we should abolish the government in the United States of America, but I do believe that the government should be limited, and we should believe in our Constitution, and we should believe in the free enterprise system and allow that free enterprise system to take hold. And I believe it works. I believe that strong companies in any sector survive in the free enterprise system. Those who operate with the highest level of integrity, discipline, and expertise, and those who don't go by the wayside. That is the system on which our country was built. And you know, I think it's a system that works. We also in America, I believe, have a tradition of trying to treat small business owners the same way we treat large business owners. And one of my fundamental problems with the Wall Street bank bailouts was that it didn't do that. You know, it said if you're a large institution and you're a large banking institution, we're going to take other people's money, the hard-earned tax money of middle-class families throughout the state, and bail out banks. But we're not going to do the same thing for small businesses. None of these small businesses should have received a bailout.
And small business,
none of these Wall
Josh,
Street banks should have received a bailout.
Small business is certainly the backbone of this country, and so definitely a major issue. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Josh Mandel, Ohio State Treasurer.
Thank you, Jackie.
Becky, back over to you.
Well, the deadline